Well, hello, ambassadors. Thank you all for joining me today at the Ambassador Awards Forum. Thank you for making the time to let me ask you some questions and so the BioOne community can get to know you a little bit better. I want to take a step back and talk about the award more generally for anyone who doesn't know. The Ambassador Award program at BioOne recognizes early career researchers who demonstrate talent in communicating about science to a broad audience. In other words, our winners here are effective communicators about their specific research fields of study and are able to discuss those concepts and summarize them in a way that researchers in other fields, policymakers, non-academics can understand. So every year, our publishers are invited to nominate researchers who have published an article within the previous year in their journal. And then all of the nominees are asked to submit a response to the prompt, how does your research change the world? And we have a panel of judges, and you were all selected as the winners. And I know this is not an easy choice for the judges, so congratulations to all of you. I just want to say, I want to do really quickly just to say that unfortunately Amarjeet Kaur was not able to join us today. She's also one of our fabulous winners. So definitely check out her work on the Ambassador Awards homepage. She did a fabulous submission and just unfortunately couldn't be here with us today. So just wanted to mention that. But again, the written pieces, the video, they're all amazing. They were all moving and impactful and most importantly, simple to understand, which is the whole point, right? So you all express these complicated scientific concepts in a beautiful and really creative way. So thank you again. And we're so proud of your excellent work and so happy to share it with the world. And I'm happy to get some time to talk with you as well and get to know you a bit better. And with that, I would love if we could go around in no particular order, starting with Maya.
Thank you for the fabulous introduction. My name is Maya Daniels Abdulahad. I am a third-year doctoral candidate out of Nova Southeastern University, and my project is investigating ecotoxicology and impacts of coastal mining on Humboldt penguins in Peru.
Thank you. And Sydney?
Well, thank you, as Maya mentioned, for that wonderful introduction. I'm Sydney Tuckwiller. I had actually finished up my doctorate back in June of 2023 at Virginia Tech, and we were focusing on subclinical necrotic enteritis in broiler chickens and what that could mean for the future, just looking at it at a very basic level, kind of what the topic of this particular award is. So excited to be here.
Yay, thank you. Jessica.
Hey, yeah, so I'm Jessica Pruitt. I'm a postdoctoral researcher based at the University of Southern Mississippi. And my work focuses on using oyster reef ecology to help inform oyster restoration and management efforts, especially here in the Mississippi Sound where I'm based.
I love it. Thank you. Nayeli.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm Nayeli Rivera, and I'm in my first year of my PhD. I'm here in Australia, and I work with bats. And also, what I'm doing is doing research in how we can do more open and inclusive science.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the questions. So start at the beginning, and any of you can, answer, or all of you can, it's sort of a free form format here. But I ask every class of ambassadors this question. So, how did you become inspired to pursue your fields of study? Was there a moment or a particular event or species that got you excited to go into this field?
I actually was very inspired by previous teachers and professors that I had growing up, just even having an interest in science in high school. I had a fabulous group of teachers there that really pushed me to embrace the STEM principles, and that has pretty much transpired throughout the rest of my life and career. In graduate school, there was my general animal science nutrition professor that he actually made the topic fun and communicated it well. And that really made me want to be a part of being in the nutrition world. And so I asked him actually if I could be part of his lab for graduate school, knowing that I wanted to continue to do research, and he accepted me, and the rest is pretty much history from there.
I love that I've heard that before. And you're right, those mentors that you have in school are the career course changing.
It's funny because I remember this exact moment when I realized that I wanted to devote my life to bats. And it's actually when I attended almost by accident. I think, yeah, I think actually by accident, I attended a scientific communication talk where they were talking about the importance of bats for the ecosystems, for our society, and the threats that they are facing. So it took me only one scientific talk to decide what I wanted to do for my entire life. So it was kind of easy that since the beginning, I knew that, okay, that sounds awesome. I just learned why they are important. Now let's think and let's now learn how I'm going to like study them. But it was like that.
I love that.
I yeah.
You just do. It was love at first sight. Okay.
So, I guess the driving force for my career in STEM so far has been my love and passion for veterinary medicine. So, I do work as a laboratory manager right now at the university that I'm doing my graduate studies at, but I also work as a veterinary nurse. And during my time as an undergraduate student, I had an option, or I had the opportunity to start working with some incredible veterinarians out of the Brookfield Zoo on research in pinnipeds. So from there, I kind of just started working on research and ecotox for animals that were at a reserve in Peru, which is how like my present work came about because there are also penguins and other species of birds that are occupying the reserve too. So really just having like the great introduction during my undergraduate years to incredible research mentors kind of steered it from just a, career looking towards veterinary medicine to, I guess, more of a broad science career that kind of focused on like education and advocacy as well.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. I think students that are watching this can get inspired about different ways to kind of find their path. So that's great. Thank you. Well, here's a follow-up question to that. If you could study anything other than your research focus, what would it be?
Yeah. Well, definitely I see myself in all my multiverses, like doing research with bats. And I'm really grateful that I'm doing what I love. But also right now I'm exploring another research line, like besides like all at the same time as bats. And it's about how we can do more open and inclusive science. And for example, me as a woman from the global south and from a non-English speaking country, I know that it's really important to elevate our voices. So what I'm doing right now is like, it's not with a specific taxa, but yeah, probably so that also can fit on the question is that I'm learning how people from the global south are seeing when people are like collaborating and doing research and like what are the practices to that we can improve to have more strong and equitable international collaborations and that we can have like a more science like a science more open to anyone. So
Yes.
because usually we think that is like well it's not a thing but we feel that is for people from other perspectives and from other voices. So we're trying to learn how we can integrate that. So yeah. Um, at the same time as bats.
Yes, absolutely. With inclusivity in mind so that everyone's voices are being heard in this collaboration. Absolutely.
I guess for me, yeah, like my research to date has focused in oyster reef ecosystems, but I really just love the ability of like applying these ecological principles like across systems, especially like coastal ones, and like the ability that it can hopefully inform restoration and management as we like seek to conserve like because a lot of time coastal habitats are some of the most degraded and the interface of where most people live in the world. So it just provides really cool opportunity to do science that can be really applicable to folks.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. Um, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that it's pretty cool that we have this class of all women early career scientific researchers who won the award this year. It was really, we love that. And it made me wonder if you all have a perspective on what the biggest issues women STEM students or early career researchers face today. Or do you think times are better than ever for girls and women who want to study science or people that identify as women?
I guess I'll go first. I mean, I've just been really lucky to have the opportunity to have a lot of strong like female mentors and to see like sort of the generation before me that's paved a way and to help to continue to facilitate that. I think there's still, statistics show there's still discrepancies and stuff, but I think, I mean, it's definitely a great time to be a woman in science and STEM. And I think the whole perspective is just to continue to create an environment that's inclusive for everyone. And so yeah, it's kind of my my 2 cents.
Yep, agree.
I do echo that sentiment. I do think that now more than ever, those doors have been busted open. And just even teaching an intro to animal science lab, there were 150 students, and I can tell you that over 95% of them were female. And that was a really exciting space to be in and to get to work with those young students and be able to try and help inspire them to stay in this path. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of them that are animal science because they do want to go down the veterinary path, just from what I have experienced. And so to see that and be able to play a hand in that, I think that there's a lot of good things to come ahead.
Getting back to the impetus behind the Ambassador Award, so clear, effective science communication and thinking about how scientific research can translate to public awareness, which some of you have mentioned already, which is so important. What are your thoughts on the effectiveness in general of plain language summaries, videos, graphical abstracts? I mean, how do you feel about being asked to create those as researchers, and how effective do you think that they can be at impacting change?
So, I mean, I think that any plain language way that you can get your research out is incredible. I know just from my own personal experiences since receiving the Ambassador Award, then just like the communication within my own college at the university, I've had administrators come up to me and tell me that they actually saw the video and then they ended up sharing it with like their kids who are in like middle school. And they're like, hey, this is so great because my son watched the video and he thought it was so interesting that he could learn this, stuff that's happening in the environment. And I was like, this is an impact that I never even considered. So I think that kind of, reach to, maybe communities that we're not generally considering when we are kind of gearing ourselves up for publication. And we're always thinking about the, kind of scientific community or maybe our specific area of research that's so niche. We're not thinking of kind of like the broader impacts that we can have through our publications, especially if the language is a little more accessible to the public as a whole. So I think that those opportunities are really neat, and just being able to get good science out to everyone is incredibly important.
Absolutely. I love that. I love hearing that so much, because that's the point of the award, right? We're trying to, when we think about inclusivity, we're trying to bring more people in and broaden the scope of the impact of the research. So it's so great to hear that that is happening with the award. Um, Nayeli, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, so I would just say that I would just compliment saying that yeah, I think that is a really essential tool that helps us to really make science accessible and help us to expand in a not technical way our findings. And I think that slowly more journals are adopting these tools. So like this is still kind of slowly, but definitely we're seeing how like it's getting adopted. And it's a good way not only that we can engage with like anyone like outside academia, but also like for with the scholars itself, like it's really useful for us because like you are like expert of your own topic, but if you are reading another research paper, and it will be better just to see with the plain summary or with the graphical abstract. So yeah, it's useful for everyone.
That's good to know that, more journals are adopting that policy too. I'm sure it's not easy for everyone to do it, to summarize in a way that anyone can understand. It's a talent that I think is a difficult thing. And so I'm glad to hear that you all have a positive sense about it. So everyone's talking about AI, right? Every year it becomes more and more a part of our lives, and we are contending with the benefits and the threats that it poses. I'm just curious to know very generally your perspective on it as early career researchers. I know it's a tricky topic, but I'm curious to know how you view AI and scientific research.
So besides my research with bats, I'm also doing research on how we can do more open and inclusive science, right? So one of the things that that I'm learning from AI, or what is also known as large language models, is that, well, it's a true, like it's a fact that it's there. People are relying, I think, that too much, like for analyzing, coding, interpreting, like even to setting research ideas, like that's a lot. But also, one of the things is that I would like to say for AI that sometimes we forget is that they don't think. It's just a probabilistic text generator. So it's just trained with like with digital text. And something that is really important to remember is that more than 90%, or depends on the models, but more than 90% of their digital text is in English or in other languages that are very represented in digital text. So again, it's just amplifying one voice. And we are seeing how that, like, if we are just relying on AI too much, we are just like echoing that voice that is ignoring ecological and traditional knowledge. So it can be bad, but I think that's one of my main concerns. But if we don't see this as a very pessimistic way, I think it's a good way. If we use AI properly, AI can help us actually to close language barriers, because people that are non-native English speakers, for example, and if they ask to AI a topic that was written, like the research paper was written in English, they can get access to that knowledge thanks to AI. It's tricky. It's not that easy to get because, AI loves to hallucinate and be creative, but it could help. Like, it's not 100% sure, but if it's done properly, probably like language barriers can be like smaller.
Yes, no, I could not. I'm clapping along because I just so agree with everything that you said. I kept my question very general, kind of intentionally, just to kind of because there's so many ways to go with it. I mean, but yes, I couldn't agree more that I think it has great potential to help with, language barriers. But I love what you brought up about the voice that it echoes and that it's we need to be mindful of that.
Also, just to kind of, I guess, double down on something that Nayeli said, it is important to remember that it is not thinking. So I think it's great to use as like a tool to assist you sometimes, but at least because I do interact with like a lot of undergraduate students, they'll want to just like give it a prompt and have it think of a whole project or a whole like, report, whatever for them. And it's like you should be identifying like a thesis for yourself. And then maybe if you need to get assistance with figuring out what kind of statistical analyses you need or some aspect of it, then yeah, you can, I guess, submit a prompt and get input. But I think knowing its limitations is really key, especially for like young and burgeoning scientists, so that you don't develop a really heavy reliance on using it as kind of like, an aid that is working more than they are, especially in like gaining knowledge in new areas. I think it's important to kind of keep that in mind that it is pretty limited still.
Absolutely. And I know our editors are all concerned about that too, and implementing ethical statements to make sure that authors that are submitting work are identifying how they used AI, if they used AI, exactly how. So great point. Well, thanks for weighing in on that. Um, so where do you see the future of scholarly communication generally? What do you think is the biggest problem that early career researchers face these days?
This kind of feeds back into the topic that we were just talking about, but I think now more than ever, and the access to all of the information, all of the overwhelming amounts of information that we have in today's day and age, that can be a challenge. And even just from the time starting graduate school and finishing graduate school, that even looked different for me. And so I really hope that in the next 10 or 50 years that we are developing the next generation of scientists that can really sift through that a lot better than I can. And AI probably does have a little bit of a hand in that, as mentioned before by Naeli and Maya, but as mentioned, that only can go so far. So I hope that that's a skill that people are starting to identify, and just if they can start out in the current situation and be able to delineate all that information a bit better, since it can be just a bit much at sometimes. I think that that's going to be invaluable in the future.
It's a great point.
I would say something else. Very sorry.
No.
I know that I'm just like saying this, but definitely we are seeing that we can see, well, that is changing science. And in 10 or 15 years, we are going to see, if we follow the trends, we are going to have more multilingual science. And it's a good thing because we usually think that science is mainly written, until now, it's mainly written in English, but we are seeing the trends, at least, for example, in conservation, more than more than a third, and in some topics, it's like 90% of their research lines, topics are written in non-English languages. So definitely, I think that's a good thing that we are moving towards a more multilingual science, and that means that more people can get access and can be more open. So definitely, it's something that honestly, before this, I never thought about that. Like I thought I was like just like the trends were like more English in English, but definitely it's moving to be more multilingual.
How would you encourage generations of future researchers? And what is one thing you would tell yourself 10 years ago?
I guess what's kind of been like interacting with sort of folks just starting their graduate careers and even like undergrads has been like the overwhelming positivity and like the hope for the future. Because I feel like older generations of scientists are like, oh, you're inheriting all these problems. But I think they've really like embraced, that the hope and the ability that science can play in solving some of these, grand challenges. And so that's encouraging. And it's like made me more optimistic in like my approach to thinking. And now, yeah. And even but it is, yeah, in 10 years, like just the landscape has changed a lot in the environment and like the amount of like stressors we're seeing on an annual basis. But I think, yeah, there is the capacity for, things to change and mindsets to change and people to rally together, which is positive. But I guess, yeah, to tell me as an early grad student, like science communication wasn't my strong suit. So like having this award is really like just been really something really special to just show the progress I've made and like the work I've put towards like trying to be able to communicate the work I do better. So yeah.
That's such a great message that exactly that, and it kind of ties in with what you're saying also that, just to be positive that things can change.
Um, Advice that I would give to, I guess, new and upcoming scientists, I think establishing a really great support system within your community, whether that's within your like subspecialty in science or if that's at your institution, is really important. And kind of, I guess, piggybacking on what Jessica was saying, in graduate students, undergrads, I feel like everyone is just so much more positive, which is very different than like the experience that I had. I had a great time doing my master's and like early on in my PhD, but the disposition of the students now as they're entering like a career in STEM is so different. And especially for a lot of like young women who are entering science, I think that they view their careers much more positively, which is really awesome to see. Um, so I think just like really driving home that having, whether it's lab mates or your PI or whoever's in your community, really support you through, some of the tough times that you're dealing with as you're pursuing a career in research is really important. So I guess I would tell myself that 10 years ago. But I would also probably tell myself that getting really diverse research experiences is important. I think for a while I was very streamlined, being like, I know exactly what kind of research I want to pursue, and like, this is what I'm going for. And as I've kind of had my journey to where I'm at now, I've had a lot of great opportunities and things that are kind of peripherally relevant to my main project, but it's great to get like different skills in different areas and interact with different people and network. So I think that being open to diverse experiences that may or may not pertain to your specific research field are really important.
Yeah, I love that. Being open to possibilities. That's great.
Absolutely. I would tell myself 10 years ago that the more that you know, the more that you realize what we don't know. And that's a very exciting and daunting space to be in. It means that you get to be in the driver's seat. And that's what I would say to the next generation, right? If you've got a passion for a certain topic and you feel like you want to make a difference in that field, there is likely an opportunity to do so. And so communicate with the right people, ask the right questions, right? Put yourself out there because if you're really passionate about it, there's someone else that is as well.
I'd say the same thing to myself. What you don't know, what you don't know 10 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, oh, I will keep it short and similar as Sydney. And yeah, what I will say to myself 10 years ago is that yeah, everyone makes errors, and that's I think that's the beauty of science, that everyone is learning. Absolutely, all of us we are learning all the time, and we're going to make errors all the time. And so that means that we should not be afraid, or we have if we are afraid, keep we should still do things. No, like the thing is just to show up and continue doing the things. And I know that it's not easy. It's yeah, it's just easy to say it, but it's that's what keeps life interesting, no? Like
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are great responses. Thank you all. What does being a BioOne ambassador mean to you? How did you go about crafting your submission? And do you have any tips for the next cohort of potential BioOne ambassadors in crafting their submissions?
I can start. I will say that being an ambassador has been a great experience just because it feels like sometimes we can get so siloed in what our research is and being able to share with each other and reading the other winners' submissions too and learning so much more than what I had known about any of your research before. It was really great to get to see that and be inspired and be able to understand exactly what you're doing because you were able to communicate it so well. And I think that, moving forward, that's something that, it's getting recognized now. And this award basically pushes for that in the future, which I think is huge. So we can, work together and collaborate and inspire each other and share ideas because that's how we make progress going forward. One tip that I would give to anyone wanting to apply for this award is that you should go to your friends and your family and you should talk to them about your submission and read it to them even, and if there's something that they don't understand, that's where you know that you need to bring it back maybe a little bit or reword it and go from there. But it was a really fun process, and it actually made me a better communicator in the process, so I appreciate that.
That makes me so happy to hear that, and it's so moving to me. And that's a great tip. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, to begin with, I never expected that. So for me, it's a great honor. So thanks. And yeah, I think also for me, it's really important because I think that elevates the voice of women in the global south, and it's really important to so we can raise our voices. And yeah, I think it's a good reminder that we are doing things, and we should continue. We should continue doing what we are doing and what we like and what we love. And for the tips, I think that, yeah, probably highlight why your research matters. Because sometimes we are like over focusing one thing and we just forget the big picture of our project. So we should like connect all the dots on why it's important so that anyone like in academia or outside academia can understand and realize why this is important, and it's a fun process to share with everyone why it's important. We wish everyone should take care of of your project, no?
Yes, absolutely, Nelly. I can't tell you every year when I, read the submissions, I learn, and it's just it's great. It's my favorite thing all year. So no, thank you for talking about the real world impact of the summaries. Yeah.
I think very similar to what Jessica had said before. At least like early on in my science career, I think I was a very nervous, like science communicator. I had a lot of anxiety, especially with presentations. But in general, I feel like I was, you know, an all right scientific communicator. But this project in and of itself, I think really helped me develop a lot of my kind of like efficacy in scientific communication and really just figuring out what the main points were of my project and how I can best convey that. So even moving forward since my submission, just being able to explain my research in a very effective manner to people that I've, met, I think that it's really been a great experience as far as like furthering my own ability to really just share what my research is about. Um, as far as tips for other people who are looking to apply, I would definitely say to take this as an opportunity to maybe learn some new skills. I did submit a video for this award, and video editing is not something that I really had experience in previously, and like different graphic effects and that kind of stuff. So it was a really neat opportunity to not only get my research out there, but also just learn some new things myself. So I think it was really gratifying at the end when I was able to put a whole video together. And then again, kind of like Sydney had said, share that with my family and get their feedback and my coworkers and just, kind of figure out if I was doing an effective job of really illustrating what the project was about.
Yeah, I guess honestly, like at first I was a little overwhelmed by the question, how does your research change the world? Because I was kind of like, it doesn't, like done. But it really like I don't know, I kind of like struggled with it for a while. And then it was just like a thing of like, well, just think about, you can think of the world globally, but honestly, like the world to people can like go down to a small level and just I was like, well, I'll just put what I got on paper. And yeah, so yes, I'm still like kind of shocked that I'm on this panel to be.
I
So yeah,
I'm
it's a
not at
great,
all. Yeah.
it's a great kind of just like validation and like a reminder to be like, well, I am an award-winning science communicator now. So I'll chime in. So it's been really great.
Jessica, I'm so glad that it was a confidence builder for you, but I'm not surprised at all. I thought your submission was very engaging and clear and interesting. Well, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. I like I said, I can't say enough about how impressive you all are, how much I appreciate you coming and taking the time and sharing with us.